Hello, guys, and welcome back to the FPL Duo. We're back for the transfer tips video for Game Week 27. And yeah, we'll be looking ahead to Game Week 7, recommending the players you should be looking to buy, sell, hold, and ignore. As always, yeah, how you doing, Jordan? How's everything?
Yeah, everything's good. And yeah, Game Week 27, normal game week. I think we've had a lot of excitement from the blank and double previously. But yeah, this is a normal game week, and we'll be talking through the players we think we should buy, sell, hold, and ignore between me and Huss and what we've recommended.
Yeah, so first up, I'll go with my pick. I've gone with Spurs midfielder, and that is Son. So Son is a buy for me this week, and I'll get into why. So we know Spurs just had a blank in game week 26 where they didn't have a fixture. However, looking at Spurs' next 5 games, I do see some potential for Son to potentially go big. Next up, Crystal Palace have obviously got a new manager. They do seem to be doing a lot better, but I think it's a decent fixture for Spurs, especially with the injuries Crystal Palace still have, and it's a home game, so I'll still back Son in that one. Aston Villa away again, that is a tougher game. However, the game week 29 is a bit, is a crucial one because we know there's going to be a lot of teams potentially that blank in game week 29, and we know Spurs will have a fixture. So again, when you look at that Fulham away fixture, that looks like a decent game there, especially if you're trying to navigate that game week where you don't want a free hit, etc. Bringing in some Spurs assets could actually make sense because Fulham is a nice game, and in game week 30, you've got Luton at home as well. So the next 4, I think, are nice for Son, especially at his ownership, 16.5%, and a lot of those managers probably are inactive as well. So it's probably a lot lower in terms of the effective ownership in the top 10k, for example. So yeah, he's very low owned. We know he's done really well so far this season with 12 goals, 6 assists, and yeah, he's come back from the Asia Cup, had a rest with the blank, and now I am actually looking to bring him into my own team. So you'll have to wait and see if I do it. I think he's a great buy at 9.6 million, good value for money. I still believe I can see some nice returns in the next coming game weeks. Yeah, so he's the first buy on the list. What about your buy next, Jordan? Obviously, you've selected Senesi, which is interesting. Talk us through this one.
Yeah, I selected Senesi, the Bournemouth defender, as my buy for this week. I think it's pretty obvious. Let's just get the obvious one out of the way. Obviously, they have a double in 28 against Sheffield and Luton, both at home. And now that the difficult fixtures out of the way for Man City in game week 26, we can now focus, I think, on the Bournemouth assets, because I believe Bournemouth have the best run of fixtures in terms of difficulty and compared to any other team in the Premier League. So I think at this current moment in time, any Bournemouth asset that you think is worth bringing into your team is worth obviously bringing and seeing what they can provide from these nice fixtures, these nice green fixtures that you see on the screen. So they got Burnley away as the first one, and then obviously the one in 28 where they play Sheffield and Luton, and then after that they got Wolves away, Everton at home in 30, and then finally Crystal Palace at home in 31. And I think this is a good run of fixtures where Senesi could potentially get maybe an attacking return in between these fixtures. We have seen it before. He scored a goal against Fulham, the 8-pointer in game week 24. He has 3 goals so far this season and has 2 assists. So he has some a little attacking threat to provide as a Bournemouth asset in defence, and that's very valuable, especially if we're looking to get out of our sort of rank bracket that we're currently stuck in at the moment. So I think Senesi is a great one that you could possibly take a punt on. He's 4.2 ownership, so he's still a nice differential. He will rise up close to the time when Bournemouth play those 2 fixtures in 28, but for the time being, I think you could get early on and buy Senesi for Burnley away. I don't think that's a bad fixture at all. Could be a possible clean sheet in there for that, but if not, then you might see potentially attack return from him. And he's really cheap as well, Senesi, 4.5 million for a defender, which I think is pretty good, especially one that's nailed to play in his Bournemouth games. And just out of, obviously, off topic, Bournemouth do play Leicester currently today at FA Cup 5th round. So obviously that's a good watch to see how Senesi gets on in that game. But yeah, 58,000 of you have decided to transfer him in so far. So a lot of you have obviously got an eye to buy in him early, ready for obviously 28.
Yeah, one thing I will add on Senesi is he's on 8 yellow cards. If he gets 10 yellow cards, so 2 away, he will get a 2-game suspension. Just so people are aware, if you are potentially worried about that. So he is 2 away from a 2-game ban. But yeah, let's move on to some players you should be looking to sell and maybe get rid of. First one up, we've gone with I've gone with KDB. Again, KDB is an interesting one because we know he's actually been benched in the last game against Bournemouth in Man City's 1-0 win. He is playing tonight, however. I believe he starts, which I do find interesting because I didn't think he would start today in being not a Premier League game. But he does start, and taking a look, obviously Man City have actually scored already against Luton, Erling Haaland, and it was assisted by Kevin De Bruyne literally a few minutes ago. So yeah, I mean, I'm still saying KDB potentially as a sell for many reasons. So again, with KDB, it doesn't seem like he's fully ready to play multiple games, 90 minutes back to back to back. You take a look at the next 5 fixtures; they're as tough as it gets, really. Not a single green fixture in there for Man City. Normally, we don't see that as the case. So Man United at home next. Then they've got Liverpool away at Anfield. Then it's Brighton away. Then it's Arsenal at home. And then it's Aston Villa at home as well. So some tough games coming up in March for Man City. And we know KDB is an excellent player. So he can still score and assist in these games. But the worry is, which one is he going to play and which one is he going to be benched for? You'd expect him to play majority of these games because they're against a tougher opposition. So I'm assuming, Pep will want, KDB playing majority of these games, but with the Champions League as well, bundled in these fixtures and the rotation, I'm just not sure KDB's fitness levels are there to play 90 minutes week in, week out like he used to, especially because it seems to pick up a few niggles here and there. So I would be selling KDB at his price, especially with the fixtures coming up. And yeah, that's my thoughts on KDB at the moment. Yeah, so Jordan, who are you going for next? You gone with Estupinian?
Yeah, I think this is a pretty obvious one. As let's just take a look at his form in the last 5. So since Gameweek 22, 0 points against Luton. I believe he came off after the first half in that game. Crystal Palace at home, 1 point. I think he came on for 10 minutes in that one. Tottenham away. Again, I don't think he played in that one. And Sheffield United away. He also didn't start. And Everton, as we know, again, he came on again for literally 8 minutes. So it seems like Zerbi doesn't prefer to play Estupinian anymore as a starting 11 player consecutively since that injury that he sustained, a very serious injury. Now, it is questionable what the reason this is, because since he's been back, even though it's a very serious injury, you would expect more minutes coming from a player like Estupinian. I think he's one of the best wing backs in the Premier League that you could possibly want. And I think if Graham Potter was still at Brighton, he'd be playing him every game as long as he managed his minutes pretty well. But it seems with Zerbi, he's barely given him any minutes at all in games, and I feel like it's something more to it than what we assume. But nonetheless, I think us owners are really tired of him being benched, and we're losing out on that defensive spot where we want a nailed defender to play. And that's why I've gone with Estupinian as a sell, because I think in the last 5, he's had no returns. Even though he's had 2 goals and 3 assists since he's come back into the Premier League, we just haven't equalised on that much since then. And at 5 million, we can go much cheaper, I think, for defenders that will play more minutes. I mean, I could have played Branthwaite instead of Estupinian, and I would have been rewarded with the 9 points. Obviously, Branthwaite got. So that's just an example of obviously Estupinian being a very annoying asset. I think he's my worst transfer in, I think, personally, for my team that I've made in my entire season so far in this thing. So, yeah, 70,000 of you have decided to take him out. There's no surprise whatsoever. There's a lot of disappointments. The fixtures do swing after 28 when Brighton have Man City, followed by Liverpool away and then Brentford away in 31. I'm not even going to be tempted to keep him for those green fixtures against Fulham away, not Forest at home, because I don't know if he's actually going to start those or not. So I think Estepino for me, if you do own him, is an easy sell if you haven't got any other issues in your team.
Okay. Let's move on to some players that we recommend you should be looking to hold. These are, you know, these are players that are being transferred out by managers, but we think you should be looking to keep. Now, Pedro Porro has already been transferred out by over 82,000 managers. Obviously, I am a Pedro Porro owner, and we've seen Pedro Porro actually be involved in training. So he's been pictured outside running and training. So he looks like he could be starting that game against Crystal Palace at home. And if you've got him, I definitely wouldn't be looking to get rid of him, because Crystal Palace at home is a good fixture for him. We know what attacking Pedro Porro is as well. And again, it comes back to Gameweek 29, where a lot of teams are blanking, where Pedro Porro will have a decent fixture against Fulham away. And because he was injured, a lot of managers have actually sold him. He comes a bit of a differential now if you've got him in your team. So if you've got him, I'll say keep him on the bench even. Worst comes to worst, if he doesn't play against Palace, have someone come off the bench. Game week 28 and then 29 is the one fixture you'll want him for. So I wouldn't be getting rid of Pedro Porro because of that game week 29 fixture. He's back. He's going to be a bit of a differential. He's on 8 assists for the season as well. So we know he's got that threat. And me personally, as an owner, I am definitely keeping Pedro Porro going forward. Who you got next, Jordan, then as a hold?
Well, I have gone with Tony for me as a hold. And obviously Brentford did play West Ham yesterday and they did get beat 4-2. And Tony did blank in that game. As much as it is annoying for Tony to obviously not get anything from that game, and Brentford played really poor, he is a hot and cold player, I think. But since his return, Tony has had 4 goals and 1 assist. So I don't think that's a bad record. I think he's only blanked, I think now it'd be 3 times so far during his return. So that's not bad for a player, obviously, that hasn't played the whole season up to this point. And for me, I think it's still the hold. That Chelsea home fixture, after that defeat against Liverpool in the Carabao Cup final, I think Chelsea will be a bit demoralised by that. And I think Brentford will want to bounce back after that huge loss to West Ham as well. So I think there's a few points to us why you should keep him. His ownership hasn't really risen that high, and it has dropped a bit because probably for the frustration of that West Ham game, but it's just over 10%. So he's sort of on the borderline differential. So it helps out for your rank if he does score, like he did for me in the double game week when he scored against Liverpool. Those 7 points gave me a huge green arrow for me because no one around my rank really owned Tony. So he is definitely a player that you should hold on to and keep the faith, even though he did have a blank at Chelsea home, and could be a nice fixture where he can return. Obviously, and for those who did get rid of him, you don't want to miss out on Tony's points if you did bring him in for the double game at 25.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so Tony as a hold as well. Let's move on to players that we think you should be looking to ignore going forward into game week 27. And I've gone with Dunk of Brighton. Now with Dunk, we know he's come off the back of a 10-pointer. He also got a 12-pointer in game week 25 after getting an assist and a clean sheet, and he's also picked up a goal against Everton. So a lot of managers are rushing to bring him in with over 40,000 transfers in. Again, I think his fixtures in the next 2 aren't too bad, but we know Brighton don't keep many clean sheets. So I think they've only kept 2 all season, which out of 26 games isn't great. And he's got 3 goals, to be fair to him, Dunk. So he's a bit of a set piece specialist. He does have the aerial threat. However, I would not be going there personally because I just think Brighton's defense isn't good enough to rely on clean sheets. And I just don't see Dunk scoring many as well going forward, especially with the fixtures in 29. He's got Man City, the Liverpool as well in game 30 is a tough one. Brentford, Nottingham Forest again. That you can see Nottingham Forest scoring, and Fulham also they've got some goals potentially in them as well. So I don't think the next 5 are great. I know he's quite cheap, but I still prefer an Arsenal defender over him, even a Porro potentially because he's got that fixture in game week 29. So I would be ignoring Dunk personally. I just think there's better defenders out there, and I don't trust Brighton's defense in terms of keeping a clean sheet. But yeah, Jordan, who's the final player you've picked as the ignore? And then just why have you gone with Brantford?
Yeah, I've decided to put Brantford as an ignore for this game week. He had a bit of fortune as well. He did score the goal against Brighton and got the 9 points, but a lot of you have decided to bring him in. 30,000 of you actually, but I think if you haven't got Brantford at this moment in time, there's no real point bringing him in due to the fixtures swing that obviously Everton will have after game week 27. So they got Man United away in 28, and then 29 they got Liverpool at home, and then in 31 they got Newcastle away, which could be unpredictable fixture. Even the Bournemouth away one, I can see there being obviously conceding to them as well. So as much as I like Brantford, he hasn't really got that much attacking threat. I know he's scored 2 goals, but those 2 goals came from literally the game that we just had and the Tottenham at home one in game week 23. So there are quite recent ones where the opportunity for Brantford has arisen, but I don't see that happening like occasionally like I do with other defenders. And I feel like with Brantford, if you bring him in now, you're only going to get really one good fixture, maybe against West Ham. But even that fixture with Paqueta back in the team, they look more better, especially when they played against Brentford. So I would be completely ignoring Brantford for the foreseeable. I mean, he's a good bench option if you're looking for a cheap defender, but for a starting one, I will be ignoring him. And even as a differential, he won't get you those 9 points every game week. And I feel like there's more upside to going with another defender, which will either have a double or has better fixtures in the next 5.
Okay, lovely. So those are the players that we've selected, guys, as the buy, sell, hold, and ignore. If you could just quickly recap off the top, Jordan, the players we've selected.
Yep. So first of all, the players we think you should buy are Son and Senesi. The players we think you should sell are De Bruyne and Estupinian. The players we think you should hold on to are Pedro Porro and Tony. And finally, the players we think you should ignore are Dunk and Brantford.
Brilliant. So make sure you guys do hit that like button, guys. It really helps support the channel. And also make sure you do hit that subscribe button as well if you're watching and you are enjoying the content. As always, likes and subscribes are appreciated. Let's just take a few of your comments. We've got Matthew in the chat who says, hey there, nice to see you all. Yeah, nice to see everyone. Hope you're all doing all well.
Yep.
And just some chat about obviously the Man City game in the comments as Haaland has scored to make it 1-0 for Man City. But yeah, we are going to go ahead and go watch that game. I think I'll probably give it a go, see how it goes. And I think that's it for today. Well, we are going to be back again on Thursday for the team selection video. So make sure you guys do tune in to see what we get up to for game week 27 with our transfer plans, etc. Should be a good one. Make sure you tune in 8 o'clock UK time on Thursday. Then we're back Saturday as always for the deadline stream. But yeah, that's it from us. Thank you guys for watching. We really appreciate it. And anything else you want to add, Jordan?
Just thank you guys for watching and enjoy the FA Cup matches going on at the moment, and take care. We'll see you Thursday for the team selection.